So Sirfetch'd for Great League is very interesting. It's actually really good for Great League, and for those of you that have a really high rank one from that event we had a couple of weeks ago, guess what? The gigantic sword. No, seriously, why is this thing like double the size of its body? I have no idea. The giant sword and really kind of epic Leaque shield Sirfetch'd is now here, are going to be here pretty soon, and it's really good for Great League. Now, the thing about what makes Sirfetch'd really interesting is that it's a pure fighting type. It's weak against, because of, and it's not flying. I know, it's like a bird, so like, it's anyways. Because it's a pure fighting type, it's essentially like Machamp. It's like a Machamp with Leaf Blade. And, like, pretty interesting and versatile moveset. Now, of course, pure fighting types are going to be weak against Fairy, Flying, and Psychic types. However, you can pivot around. In Great League, I would say in Great League, it's a lot easier to pivot around weaknesses versus Ultra Premier, etc., which Sirfetch'd is actually really good against. Now, as you see, the Fairy type A, Fairy, Flying, and Psychic, you do see some Charmers. There are plenty of Flyers, but what makes Sirfetch'd really interesting is can actually beat some, like, really popular Flyers. Well, actually, it could beat Skarm, so it could beat Skarm. Now, Psychic types, those Hypnos, you're going to have to be really careful about Hypno. Because anything with Psychic and Fairy, and with, as you see its stats, high attack, defense, stamina, and subpar defense and stamina, you want to run away from there. But like I said, it's a little easier to pivot in Great League, so Sirfetch'd is really strong still. Now, it does have as a pure fighting type, it does resist Bug, Dark, and Rock. So, those Umbreon's got nothing on you. Galvantula's lunges aren't going to do much on you at all. You can actually even beat Galvantula, and I'll show you like in what scenarios you do. And you resist Grab types. So if you like punching Bastiodon in the face, poor Wallface gets absolutely annihilated, and well, anything that's Steel and Rock, you're just going to punch a hole in it, because pure fighting types plus high attack equals death. Now, the thing about Sirfetch'd and what makes it really difficult is that Sirfetch'd is kind of hard to obtain. As in, like, if you didn't play that event a while ago, then you probably don't have one prepared, or you don't have a good IV one. If you don't, it's also kind of expensive as far as, like, the second move goes. For Great League, it's not as expensive. For example, if you use your Hatched Galarian Sirfetch'd, or not Galarian Sirfetch'd. If you use your Hatched Sirfetch'd, as you see here, it goes up to about, like, it goes up really high, so you have to have one that's like really weak. Does that make sense? If you didn't play, you can't hatch it for Great League, because if you evolve it, as you see, the maximum 1706. So if you hatch, as you see here, this is your max level. So you can't actually get it from hatching eggs. You have to get it from either a research encounter, which in Go Battle League, or you have to get it from basically when, like I said, the event a couple of weeks ago. But because of that, if you did grind really hard, it's really good for Go Battle League, and you're going to find out why shortly. So Sirfetch'd in Great League is actually really interesting. So as you see here, it's actually number 6 overall. It's best used in the lead. Pretty much like Ultra Premier, it's best used in the lead or the closer. It's a much stronger switch, however. There's not too many things that, it's not, like, super negative. That's why it's number 6 overall. However, you want to use it either as a lead or a closer. Now, as you see here, the great thing about Sirfetch'd is that even though it's a fighting type, you still beat Skarmory. So you could beat Skarmory, you could beat Galarian Stunfisk, of course you beat Wallface, and the fact that you beat Umbreon. And with the Leaf Blade, you're able to beat Wishcash. Well, you beat Wishcash, you beat Mudboys. Now, the interesting about, like, Sirfetch'd is that even though it does have Leaf Blade, it still doesn't beat Azu. Altaria, things that resist you, and even Obama Snow, like, because Sirfetch'd isn't bulky, it can still lose against a lot of things that are relevant in the meta. However, Sirfetch'd, if you see this thing in the lead, and you like running any of the key wins right here, as you see, it's very strong against them. Very strong. 800 rating is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that it can beat Skarm makes it a really great pick for Great League overall. As you see in the lead, Sirfetch'd actually ranks at number 7, and it beats a ton of things, like I mentioned before. In the closing scenario, Galarian Sirfetch'd is actually really good. Still good against Galarian Stunfisk. It'll beat it to death, and you just close combat it to oblivion. As you see with the Leaf Blade, you're able to end Wishcash's life. They'll essentially one-shot every Mud Boy in the meta. So Mud Boys don't stand a chance against Sirfetch'd. And also, for the switch, Sirfetch'd serves at number 12. Again, I wouldn't use it as a switch. You can win against, like you see on the switch, you can win against Ozzy, you can also win against Galvantula, even though Bug does resist fighting, but it's very situational. So for Great League, I'm not going to be too fancy with Sirfetch'd. The reason being is because, like, yes, it has, like, 7 movesets, but you really just want to stick with Counter Leaf Blade, or like, Leaf Blade or Night Slash. Because, like I said, because Sirfetch'd isn't super, like, bulky in Great League, there really isn't a lot of room to play with it. If you're going to use Fury Cutter, you might as well use something else, because you get stabbed if you have a bug type. But with Sirfetch'd, the reason why it's so good is because of its moveset. Counter is one of the best fast moves in the game. Leaf Blade only takes 5 counters to use Leaf Blade, and Close Combat just hits like a truck. If you hit something with Close Combat, it's either going to 1 die or 2 be near dead, unless it like double resist fighting. Then you'll be it's just punch things, okay? You can try Fury Cutter, but, like, honestly, because of Sirfetch'd being a fighting type, you don't get, like I said, you don't get stabbed, and its strength is the fact that it does have counter. And there's a reason why it's number 6, because it has counter. So here's the 2 shield. As you see, Great League meta, 2 shield, Night Slash, Leaf Blade, and then we pop the sim. Here you go. You get Obama Snow, you punch Obama Snow to death. You're gonna still lose against Altaria, so Altaria is still really good in the meta. It's like a fighter's worst nightmare, or a pure fighter. As you see, you can actually beat Azu in the 2 shield with both Night Slash and with Leaf Blade. Now, the reason why you want Leaf Blade is because you can go straight Leaf Blade against Azu in the 2 shield, which is nuts. Sirfetch'd is probably the only fighter in the game that can do this a bit, just because with Leaf Blade. Now you can still do that with Night Slash, but you have to bait 2 and then punch Azumarill to death. So this is why, like I said, the reason why it's so good is because our Leaf Blade is so good versus like Night Slash is because you're able to just straight Leaf Blade Azu to death. There's a lot of straight Leaf Blade scenarios. Azu's one of them. You can still beat Azu, but you have to do the straight Leaf Blade. Beating Azu in the 2 is pretty nuts. Obviously, you're going to punch poor Bastion to death. Well, if you hate Bastion as much as I do, you probably don't feel that bad. But along with that, even though you have Night Slash, some things that are Psychic, you actually don't beat them. In other words, just because you have Night Slash, it doesn't mean you cover Psychic types. As you see, you're going to lose against Cresselia and Deoxys, and your Clefable just destroys you. The weaknesses that Sirfetch'd carries in Great League is very similar to Ultra Premier Cup. If you haven't seen that video, put it below here. I put it in the link in the description. As you see, you still don't beat Deoxys defense, unfortunately. Deoxys defense, even though if it's not using Psycho Boost, will still actually take you out. It also... And Big Ghost Balloon actually destroys you. It actually beats you too, so be careful. You do beat Dugong. You do beat Ice types. You do beat Ferrothorn. Interesting enough, you actually beat Frostless, because you do neutral damage with those counters, and it just really hits like a truck. You could literally just straight Leaf Blade Frostless. Sirfetch'd is an incredibly powerful Pokemon. It can even beat Galvantula in the 2 shield. So it's essentially an incredibly overpowered fighter. Well, for Great League, it's kind of overpowered. There's a lot of things that do check Sirfetch'd, like Hypno. However, like I said, if you get Azu in the 2 shield, you could and Galvantula, even if it does lunge you, you can literally just straight Leaf Blade. That's nuts. To be able to straight, like, no other fighting Mon can really do this versus Galvantula. As you see, you beat Azu and Galvantula into 2. That's why it's such an amazing lead, and that's why it takes the reins as number 6. You beat you lose against, it's because it's squishy, you lose against Haunter. And remember I mentioned Hypno? Confusion users absolutely end your life, so just be careful. Now, another interesting thing is, yes, you beat Lapras, you lose against Shadow Champ, it loses against fellow fighters. Now, the reason it does is because of its bulk. If you look here, Medicham and, like, Machamp, it doesn't live to a lot of things. That Shadow Punch damage still takes your soul. It can literally just cross-chop you to death, or it just punches you to death, and it'll live with about 4 HP. So, like I said, you still lose against, you even lose against Medicham, so be careful. You can beat Mandibuzz, which is really interesting because Mandibuzz is a flying type. If it has Snarl, you can beat it. As you see, you double bait with shields, and then you can close combat. Now, you can't just straight go close combat because you're going to die, of course, but make sure the Mandibuzz matchup is a little interesting. But this is only assuming Mandibuzz doesn't have Air Slash. If it has Air Slash, get out of there. As you see, it beats a slew of things in the 2-shield. It even beats Mew in the 2-shield, going... I'm assuming you go straight Leaf Blade? You do. As you see, it's nuts. There's a lot of things that Sirfetch'd can beat that are really meta-relevant, just going straight Leaf Blade. Mew's one of them. So is Alolan Raichu. You could literally straight Leaf Blade Alolan Raichu to death. And it does resist your counters. Remember I told you counters a really good move. It's incredibly strong. You're gonna poor Munchlax will never grow to a Snorlax. Obstagoon gets absolutely annihilated. And Registeel says bye-bye. You beat Sableye too. You can beat Sableye with Sirfetch'd, literally just going straight Leaf Blade. Straight Leaf Blade. Leaf, 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 leaf. See what I mean? This is what makes Sirfetch'd so good. Like, it's able to defeat so many meta-relevant Mons, literally just punching it to death. Well, not really punching it to death. It takes the Giant League, it summons the power of Grass, and then you slash things to oblivion. Now, here's why Night Slash is just a little interesting, because even if you do use Night Slash, watch what happens. You still lose against Sableye. Now, you can beat Sableye straight Leaf Blade, but this is why Night Slash is kind of eh. Because as you see here, a lot of matchups you can beat, you actually lose against Sableye going straight Night Slash. You can't do that versus Leaf Blade. So it's really interesting. Now, I don't know why you beat Scrafty going Night Slash. As you see here, you go Leaf Blade, or you, like, with Leaf Blade, it's a simultaneous knockout. Not sure why you do it. What happens with Night Slash? Does this assume you proc? Oh, that's interesting. So it looks like you can just, well, we'll go over that in the later scenarios, but, like, it looks like versus Scrafty, you can just, like, you can shield both power-up punches and just punch it to death. See what I mean? Use counter. Just use counter. You're able to you lose against Skarmory in the 2-shield, unfortunately, just because Air Slash is so oppressive, and you can't beat Swampert, just because you're not that bulky. Swampert does outpace you as you see, well, here's what happens. You never make it to your 3rd Leaf Blade. So just be very careful against Swampert, because you do beat Mud Boys, but you don't beat them in up 2 shields. Unless it's Wishcash. Wishcash you can beat. Swampert's the interesting one you can't beat. So you can beat Wishcash. That's why I scrolled to the right, because I'm like, doesn't it beat Wishcash? Yeah. So you're going to lose against Tropius, both versions of Tropius. You're going to lose against Shadow Victory Bell too. So if you see the Grass Hole line, and you see Shadow Vic in the lead, switch. Just switch. Don't risk it. Now, as you see, it beats Wireless, it beats Umbreon, it beats Venusaur, it beats Vigoroth, it beats so many things in the... If you don't know your matchups and you're facing a Sirfetch'd, and your opponent stays, for example, if your opponent stays in with their Ozzy, you'll be like, oh, okay, that doesn't hurt a lot, and then it says they see the Leaf Blade damage, probably gonna switch out. But just to see, like, Sirfetch'd is nuts in the lead, in the 2. This is just a 2-shield scenario, by the way. Alright, so here's the 1-shield. It looks like you do lose against Bama in the 1-shield, so be mindful of that. You also lose against Azu in the 1-shield. So if you take a look at here, you look at Sirfetch'd versus Azu, you only beat it in the 2-shield scenario. So if you're down a shield, be very careful. You can actually still, like, Azu will beat you. Now you're gonna beat Bastion on, of course, because you punch it to death. And you lose against Confusion users, Charmers, and the Ghosts, of course. And against Pseudo Fighters. So just be pretty much the same thing things you basically lose against in a 2-shield. But the most notable one that you do is probably Abomasnow. And you also, let's see. The good thing is even with Night Slash, you pick up the Sableye matchup. So this is where you have a stronger matchup with Sableye, and you also beat Scrafty in the 1-shield. As you see in the 1-shield, Scrafty goes bye-bye. Compared to the 2-shield where it's actually simultaneous knockout, you win in just going straight Leaf Blade. That's a plus, because Scrafties are not super popular, but they're definitely around. Now, here's what's really interesting. One of the matchups you do pick up, you actually pick up Skarmory. So I think this is bait dependent, so be careful. You do have to bait with Leaf Blade, and then you punch it to death. But as long as you can bait in the 1s, that's knowing that you can close combat, that's still pretty huge. Now you do lose, like I said, you still lose against its like common matchups. You're gonna lose against Tropius. You will lose against Shadow Victory Belt and Wigglytuff. So just keep that away. But in the 1-shield, things that are really notable is that, like I said, you pick up that Scrafty, but you're also, the most important one is you pick up Skarmory. So Skarmory is like definitely the most important 1-shield matchup here. Alright, now the 0-shield. Now the interesting thing is like the no-shield scenario. Now, like you saw Sirfetch'd is strongest in the lead and the closer. So, in the closer, you do pick back up your Abomasnow matchup. You straight just punch it to death. You close combat it to death. You beat Bastion, of course. You still lose against Altaria and Azu. You only beat Azu in the 2s. Remember that. So you lose against pretty much is there anything you do pick up? So it looks like with Night Slash, you do pick up the Haunter matchup in the 0s. But you never want Sirfetch'd versus Haunter anyway, so... And I don't see a lot of Haunters. You do see some Haunters in Go Battle League, not a lot though. You pick up Lapras. You actually beat Shadow Champ with the Leaf Blade variation. And do you just straight Leaf Blade it to death? I believe you Leaf Blade it to death. You do. The Leaf Blade will KO Shadow Champ in the no shield. You also beat Mandibuzz. I believe you close combat it to death. You beat, and like I said, you'll lose against Pseudo Fighters. You'll still lose against. There's no positive matchup for like Medicham and other Pseudo Fighters. They still beat you. If you look, I think you only win up a shield. Yeah, you only win up shields against Pseudo Fighters. Some Pseudo Fighters. Now you beat Meganium. Does beat you. You don't outpace Meganium, unfortunately. You only beat Meganium in the 1s and the 2s. So Meganium's Frenzy Plant does eat you to the next dimension. You also lose against Mew, so keep that in mind. And Night Slash does pick up some matchups in the no shield. So in the no shield, you will pick up Haunter, and you also pick up. It looks like you also pick up a Alolan Raichu. Night Slash does. I believe Night Slash is what KOs it. There's H2, you Night Slash H2, and then you do a little more punches, and that's GG's. You beat Scrafty, you also beat Shiftry. Now, this is where you'll lose against Skarmory. So you only beat Skarmory in the 1s. You beat Stunfisk, you beat Gfisk, you beat Swamperts, of course, you Leaf Blade, yeets it to the next dimension. And you still lose, you actually beat Shadow Victory Bell in the 0s. So if you manage to get if this is really important for the Grass Hole matchup, if you get in the 0s, you can punch it to death. So just keep that in mind. So in the 0s, one close combat will nearly destroy an entire Shadow Victory Bell. Looks like yeah. So the 0s and the 1s are the 2s. In other scenario, if Victory Bell does have shields and you can't close combat it, you do lose. And that's the 0s. Now the 1 shield, if you're up a shield, of course, everything just goes is really great and really fancy. You're still going to lose against Clefable, so you'll lose against Psychic users, Clefables, Charmers, Ghosts, Confusions, Flyers, anything that a lot of things that resist you, you will lose against. And just any like Charmers or Confusion users, you don't stand a chance. So as long as you keep it away, just remember, even if you have shields, you are gonna get charmed down. Now in the two shield scenario, being up 2 shields, you still lose against Charmers and and Driplim, just because you actually beat Tropius Air Slash you'll beat Air Slash Tropius in the 2 shields, but you lose against Razor Leaf just because Sirfetch'd isn't the bulkiest thing in the world. But in the 2 shield, like I said, as long as you avoid Charmers, you avoid Confusion users, and like whatever you're weak against, you'll be pretty well off. Now, if you have shield advantage, it looks to be like the same thing as being up 2 shields, except you lose against Altaria. So, in this scenario, you're going to lose against Mantine, Alolan Marowak. I guess the general rule of thumb is to just keep Sirfetch'd away from, like, anything that resists counter, or, like I said, like, anything that resists counter, or just anything you're weak against, like, that can tap you down, like Charmers and Confusion users, of course. And that's Sirfetch'd in a nutshell. So the summary for Sirfetch'd, it's incredibly powerful. It's very strong. Like you see here, you want Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is what makes Sirfetch'd really good, and that's why I give it a 9 out of 10. The fact that it can beat Azu into 2 shield is nuts, because you see a lot of Azus, so that means you can lead with Sirfetch'd. And one of the most popular and strongest mons in the game, you beat it with 2 shields. You can beat it with 2 shields, but a 596 rating is pretty nuts in the lead. So, Sirfetch'd is really good. Like I said, you still have to pivot away from its weaknesses, but as long as you can do that, it's amazing. Sirfetch'd is really versatile, and it looks like you do, like I said, and I keep preaching this, you want Leaf Blade. Night Slash doesn't even flip negative, Night Slash doesn't flip anything notable until the zeros, and all it flips is Haunter and Achu. The chances you will see the 0 shield against those things isn't likely. So just use Leaf Blade. Just cut things, okay? 2 things you gotta remember. Just punch things in the face and slice it in half. That's all you need to know. But that's what makes Sirfetch'd so strong. If you want to use the other movesets, you can go ahead, but like I said, use counter, use Leaf Blade. 9 out of 10, very powerful. One of the strongest leads and closers, and one of the best chargers in Great League now that it is here. I definitely recommend you use it. Again, keep it away from Charmers, and keep it away from Confusion users, and you will absolutely dominate Great League Go Battle League.